Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm alone here and so many of you online. I'm happy to be with you today. We can invoke auspiciousness by, you can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Nara Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto the author Srila Vyasadeva. Today we are reading from the second canto, entitled Cosmic Manifestation, and we are reading from chapter 9, Answer by Citing the Lord's Version, and text 2. You can do one Sanskrit word at a time. Bahurupa,
Bahurupa
Iva,
Eva
Abati,
Abati
Mayaya,
Mayaya
Bahurupaya,
Bahupaya
Ramamana,
Ramamana
Guneshu,
Guneshu
Asya,
Asya
Ma,
Mama
Aham,
Aham
Iti,
Iti
Manyate,
Manyate
Bahurupa Ivabati,
Bahupahivapati
Ayaya Bahurupaya,
Mayaya Bahupaya
Mamano Guneshvasya,
Ramamano Guneshvasya
Maham Iti Manyate,
Mamaham Iti Manyate
Bahurupa Ivabati,
Bahurupa Ivapati
Mayaya Bahurupaya,
Mayaya Bahupaya
Mamano Guneshvasya,
Ramamano Guneshvasya
Mahamiti Manyate,
Mamaham Iti Manyate
Bahurupa Ivabati,
Bahurupa Ivapati
Ayaya Bahurupaya,
Mayaya Bahupaya
Mamano Guneshvasya,
Ramamano Guneshvasya
Maham Iti Manyate,
Mamaham Iti Manyate Bahurupa Ivabati
Bahurupahivavati
Mayaya Bahurupaya
Mayaya
Ramamano Guneshvasya Mamahamiti Manyate
Bahurupa iva bate
Bahurupa Ivabati
Mayaya bahurupaya
Mayaya Bahurupaya
Mama no Unesh Asya
Ramamano Guneshvasya
Mama Hamiti Manyate
Mamahamiti Manyate
Bahurupai Bhavati
Bahurupa Ivabati
Mayaya Bahurupaya
Mayaya Bahurupaya
Ramamano Guneshvasya
Ramamano Guneshvasya
Mamahamiti Manyate
Mamahamiti Manyate
Bahurupa Ivabati
Bahurupa Ivabati
Mayaya Bahurupaya
Mayaya Bahurupaya
Ramamana Guneshvasya
Ramamano Guneshvasya
Mamahamiti Manyate
Mamahamiti Manyate
Hare Krishna, we can now go forward with the translation. Bahurupa,
Bahurupa
multiforms,
multiforms
Iva,
Eva
at it were,
as it were
Abati,
Abati
manifested,
manifested
Mayaya,
Mayaya
by the influence of the exterior energy,
with the influence of the exterior energy
Bahurupaya,
Bahurupaya
in multifarious forms,
in multivarious forms
Ramana,
Ramamana
Ramana,
Ramana
Ramamana, sorry, as it were,
enjoying as it were
Guneshu,
Guneshu
in the modes of different qualities,
in the modes of different qualities
Asya,
Asya
the external energy,
of the external energy
Mama,
Mama
mine,
mine
Aham,
Aham
I,
I
Iti,
Iti
thus,
thus
Manyate,
Manyate
things.
thinks
Translation. The illusioned living entity appears in so many forms, offered by the external energy of the Lord, while enjoying in the modes of material nature, the uncaged living entity misconceives thinking in terms of I and mine. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Different forms of the living entities are different dresses offered by the illusory external energy of the Lord according to the modes of nature the living being desires to enjoy. The external material energy is represented by our three modes, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. So even in a material nature, there is a chance of an independent choice by the living entity. And according to his choice, the material energy offers him different varieties of material bodies. There are 900,000 varieties of material bodies in the water. There are 2 million vegetable bodies, 1,100,000 worms and reptiles, 1 million forms of birds, 3 million different bodies of beasts, and 400,000 human forms. Also, altogether, there are 8,400,000 varieties of bodies in different planets of the universe. And the living entity is traveling by so many transmigration according to different modes of enjoying spirit within himself. Even if one particular body, even in one particular body, the living entity changes from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth, from youth to old age, and from old age to another body created by his own actions. The living entity creates his own body by his personal desires, and the external energy of the Lord supplies him the exact forms by which he can enjoy his desires to the fullest extent. The tiger wanted to enjoy the blood of another animal, and therefore, by the grace of the Lord, the material energy supplied him the body of the tiger with facility for enjoying blood from another animal. Similarly, a living entity desiring to get the body of a demigod in the higher planet can also get it by the grace of the Lord. And if he is intelligent enough, he can desire to get a spiritual body to enjoy the company of the Lord, and he will get it. So the minute freedom of the living entity can be fully utilized, and the Lord is so kind that he will award the living entity the same type of body it desires. The living entity's desiring is like dreaming of a golden mountain. A person knows what a mountain is, and he knows what gold is. Out of his desire only, he dreams of a golden mountain. And when the dream is over, he sees something else in the presence. He finds in his awakened state that there is neither gold nor mountain, and what to speak of a golden mountain. The different position of the living entities in the material world under multifarious manifestation of bodies are due to the misconception of mine and I. The karmi think of this world as mine, and the jnani thinks I am everything. The whole material conception of politics, sociology, philanthropy, altruism, etc., conceived by the conditioned soul, is on the basis of this misconceived I and mine, which are product of a strong desire to enjoy material life, identification with the body, and the place where the body is obtained under different conceptions of socialism, nationalism, family affection, and so on and so forth, is all due to forgetfulness of the real nature of the living entity and the whole misconception of the bewildered living entity can be removed by the association of Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, as all this explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyanajala Shalakaya Chakshud Militan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Kadamayan Tadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shigu Shiyuta Padakamalam Shigum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaita Savadutam Parijanash Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyacha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvesesha Shunyavadi Paskachade Jatarine. The illusion living entity appears in so many forms offered by the external energy of the Lord. While angling in the modes of material nature, the uncaged living entity misconceives, thinking in terms of I and mine. Reading the word uncaged, I felt so much pain. I felt so much pain. Like the living entity is free, it's naturally immortal, eternal. The living entity is full of knowledge, like complete knowledge. The living entity is full of bliss. What is like free spirited? Sometimes we say free spirited, and that's our birthright. That's our true constitutional position is to be free spirited. And to imagine like that free spirited living entity being uncaged by the material energy. It feels so painful. And still that's our situation here. That's a situation, our situation personally, and the situation of everything else around, every living things that we can see here on this planet, and every living thing in the universe, every living thing in the multifarious numbers of universe. That's a situation we are uncaged. We are uncaged in this body, we are uncaged on this planet, we are uncaged within this universe. So that sounds very painful and restricting. And how are we uncaged? We are uncaged by our own desire. Like we, in a sense, this verse and this part of the Bhagavatam is about radical responsibility, like no one to blame. There's nowhere to go, there's no one to blame for our circumstance, the circumstance of our birth, the circumstance of our life too, a circumstance of our minute-to-minute choices, a circumstance, everything that's coming to us. And there is nowhere to blame. Like recently I had some interaction with a medical, institution of America. And in many ways, I could go to blame. I could go to blame of ignorance, so much ignorance. And I'm just looking at, well, all along I had choices. And I still have choices, and we still have choices. So the cause is us. And then at the core, the cause is us. We are the cause of our situation in the cage, in the restricting cage, where we can really not express much of our true spirit. And then how it's manifesting by the grace of the Lord, by the grace of the Lord to the agency of the material energy. So we have desire, and our first desire, like we read from the last purport, is to desire to have full independence. Like we see Krishna, God, have full independence. He can desire unlimitedly. He desires unlimitedly, and unlimitedly all his desires are fulfilled in a way that increases bliss. And when we start desiring having the same independence and the Lord, then that desire brings us to unlimited miseries. So there is a distinction here. And so, the material nature is manifested in 3 modes of material nature. That's beginning of the purport. And the 3 modes of the nature are Sattva-gun, Raja-gun, and Tama-gun. Sattva-gun is the mode of nature that gives us a sense of fulfillment, satisfaction. The words sense, satisfaction come from that root of sattva. So that's one mode by which we are bound. We are bound by satisfaction. We sometimes in illusion that satisfaction means I'm doing well in spiritual life, but it's not necessarily the truth. Sometimes our satisfaction is the cause of our biggest bondage and engagement. And then there is a mode of Raja. The mode of Raja is a mode of activity, action, go. That the mode of Raja give us the illusion that we are in control, that we can be in control, and by our hard work we are going to make money, or we are going to create relationship. And mainly the mode of Raja gives us the illusion that we are stronger than material energy. In the mode of Raja, we really think we are the controller and stronger than what's happening. And yesterday at around 9 a.m., the electricity went off all over Alachua. Not simply in our little neighborhood, but the whole city was without electricity, like nothing. And it lasted for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes, an hour, I'm not sure. And I had a coaching session, Dear Govinda had a coaching session, and we were thinking like, if I schedule a coaching session, I'm committed, I'm going to be there. But like how fragile we are. That was a comment that Eze made when the electricity over the city was off like that. He had realization like how fragile we are. Just a little action of the material energy and everything's broken. Our body can be broken, electricity can be broken, a big tsunami can wipe up countries off the planet. And so the Raja just gives us an illusion that we're in control and that we are stronger than the material energy. That's madness. And then Tamagun, that's energy that leads us to lethargy, like apathy, and numbing ourselves, numbing the pain that we are feeling. Like in Raja, we feel like, oh, it's okay, I can conquer the pain. And in Tamas, we just fall under the pain and let ourselves completely go down in depression, and we're just in complete ignorance in Tamas. So that's the way the material energy is engaging us through those 3 modes, ropes, like gunas. Gunas mean ropes. So we just are tied by different ropes. Some ropes are prettier than others, but they're all ropes. Sometimes we compare the three gunas with colors. We have the three primary color, sattva can be like the yellow, let's say, and then raja can be like the red, fiery, and then tamagun we can do like the blue. And then when we have these three colors, how many colors can we create? How many colors can we create with those three colors? Unlimited. Like when we see a rainbow, there is I don't remember, 7 anyway colors in a rainbow. But in reality, in between those main colors, there is so much gradation. So similarly, with those three modes, we can create many forms, and really many shapes, and many shapes of dwellings, many cages. And how many cages there is in the universe? 8,400,000 cages, and all of them look different. And that's quite amazing in this purport, how precise the Veda are, how precise it is. Like it goes over the different species and the number, like 900,000 in the water, vegetable, 2 million, 1,100,000 of worms and reptiles, and then 3 million different bodies of beasts. It seems the beasts are the most common, somehow, the most common desire of the. And then when we are in those cages, so the mixing of the three modes of material nature are the mixing of color. It's unlimited in a sense, and in form of shape, it's like the rainbow. It seems it's unlimited, but that at the same time there is kind of a number of color. So in the same way, it's unlimited, and then there is still a number of cages. But within those cages, like let's say within the cages of human being on Earth, or a certain type of human being, like let's say American, on Earth, there is so much varieties. Like we can just look at here. There is 15, 16, 17, 18, I think, 18 or 19 people here. And we all have like one color, let's say, let's say the purple, that's a mix of the blue and the red and maybe a little yellow inside. And but within that, there is so much varieties, and we can all look at what that body is made of, what my cage, how much, what's the percentage of Raja in my cage, what's the percentage of Tamas in my cage, what's the percentage of Sattva in that cage, because that cage is made of those three modes of material nature. And the mixture, those mixture of those three modes kind of manifest a certain consciousness. Of course, the pure living entity has a pure consciousness, like a pure bright light is white, yes? And however, if we put filtered in front of that bright light, like it could be a red filter or a blue filter or a yellow filter, or a mix of all those, a little bit of yellow and a lot of red and a little bit of blue, then the light will come out either a little bit reddish or maybe brownish or in different color or purplish. So similarly, our consciousness is kind of piercing through all those layers of the material energy and the mix of the three material modes. And so there is different consciousness manifesting in one of Srila Prabhupada's class on that verse. Srila Prabhupada speak of a man. Let's say there's a man who thinks he's a Brahman, like he's highly intellectual and he's a Brahman. And so maybe his consciousness piercing through the modes, they're like, I'm so great. I'm so wonderful. I'm all knowledgeable. I'm wise. I'm so pure. I am a Brahman. And then let's say some living entity is the pure consciousness and the purity of the living entity is in the body of a hog. And the hog thinks like, so the consciousness, oh, stool, this is so nice. Stool is so nice. Let me eat it. So we can see that there is a varieties of consciousness according to the association with the mode of material nature. We are getting different type of body, and a different type of body develops a different type of consciousness. So we can also analyze what type of consciousness do we have in this body. And then, of course, through the process of devotional service, everybody here is inquiring about the purpose of human life. Everybody here is curious about knowing what I'm doing here. Why am I in that cage? So of course, through those inquiry, we are led to the process of stepping out of the cage, little by little. And the way of stepping out of the cage, a big part of that is to understand the cage. Yeah? A big part of the spiritual process is not simply transcending and going directly to Krishna, because if we are not meeting ourselves in the cage and seeing that we are in cage, then it's not going to help us to want to step that step of understanding our cage. So a lot of the Shastra, a lot of the teaching that is given by Sukadev Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, appreciate at the end of the purport that Srila Prabhupada brings us back to like, here we are hearing, we are part of a conversation, we are associating with two great devotees, Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. And part of their conversation is to really help us understand the cage, help us understand the prison house, help us understand our condition under the three modes of material nature, help us understand the ropes that are binding us. And through understanding the ropes, then we can detach from it. I see like, okay, my main service is to do individual coaching, at least right now. And so as a coach, I see my service as supporting people to connect with the highest guidance within, and to connect through really supporting awareness, because we cannot change something we are not aware of. So basically, I see my role as supporting people, holding space, creating a big space for people to see themselves. And through that awareness, increasing their choices. Because without awareness, it's in a mode of goodness. So without awareness, we cannot change something we don't know about. So through awareness, we increase choice. And then through that awareness, 80% of the work is done. And then the 20% left is really supporting the client to make choices that will create different results. To really supporting the client to see, okay, so because of that conditioning, because of that scar in my heart, because of my past, the past can explain a lot about what's happening now. However, the past is not going to take responsibility for it. And so to understand the past, becoming aware of how that conditioning in this lifetime brought me to make different decisions, different choices that are led me to where I am at. So because of those choices, and I'm here, and now with that awareness, I can make different choices. I can choose Krishna. I can choose to devote my life to serving the Lord. I can choose to endeavor for a higher self-realization. Usually people, when they start, yesterday I did a coaching session with a client, and we started the old journals coaching about a year and a half ago. And this particular client at the beginning of our coaching, it was really interesting to be with her because she wasn't seeking self-realization. She came because she was in a relationship with a man who was in connection with Sattva, self-realization, spiritual realization. And he was kind of giving her an ultimatum that, it's not working for me. I love you and everything, but it's really not working for me. You need to do some work on yourself. And then so he directed her to me because he knew me. And at the beginning of the coaching, that person didn't have any sense of anything connected with self-realization. And it was interesting for me because I'm not used to that. And so now 1 year and a half later, she's so thrilled. She's so thrilled by that process. Even so at the beginning, she was very, very resisting, extremely resistant. She really wanted to convince me that it has nothing to do with her. What was happening was all about our partner, and then later on about the coronavirus, or about so many things. But definitely, I shouldn't look to really help her because there was nothing to help. And however, we built trust enough that little by little, that awareness started to open. And then I can see the result a year and a half later of like the eagerness to know, the eagerness to be courageous, the eagerness to dive into understanding my conditioning, understanding how my conditioning creating my reality, how my conditioning like led to make so many decisions in my life. And in that situation, in fact, the decisions in our life were seemingly externally looking very, very successful. Because when our main coping mechanism is success, when our main coping mechanism is to work hard and get degrees and get approval from people and getting, like all that, then it's difficult to disentangle because it seems that it's okay. But it was just coping mechanism that led to a lot of external success, but an internal mess. So we can all look at, like the choices we made and look at our desire. Sometimes I'm curious about that. I'm curious about, okay, here's my cage. What kind of desire did I have in my past life that led to this kind of cage, and learning what my cage is about. And I'm curious about that. I'm curious sometimes about that, like really allowing myself to go there and allowing also myself to look at what choices I'm making now and what kind of body I'm creating in my next life. Really like to think about that, to think about that. Like, yes, by our desire, we can create to be in much more suffering. Like, let's say our desire is to still control the material energy or find that the material energy is wrong. It is wrong. What's happening here is wrong. What's happening to others, what's happening to me is wrong. Or if our desire is to have more money, or like coming from greed or coming from fear, what body are we creating? We can meditate on that. What body are we creating according to our desire and according to our activity in this lifetime? Are we creating a body of an elevating being? Are we creating a body maybe of happier, richer, healthier human being? I know I invest so much in my health. I invest time, I invest money, I invest my brain, I invest so much in my health, so much. I really invest, I do a lot of sacrifice for my health. So I have a sense that in my next life, I'm gathering right now good health karma. I know that because I'm doing so much sacrifice for health. That's just an example. And it's a very interesting thing because, it seems that in this lifetime from childhood, I have kind of a health karma coming again. It's like recurrent karma. Like there's always something going on in my life that's difficult on the health level. Sometimes I have some break, maybe it's a break of a few months or a few years, but it's recurring in my life, recurring, and I know I'm not stressing anything about astrology, but on the general, I have something about my son that's wrong. So that makes that in this lifetime, I'm going to face a lot of health issue. So as a child and as an adult and throughout my life, I had a lot of crises in health crises, health issue. And that's interesting because I can see that, okay, it's my karma. And the result of my karma is that in this lifetime, I'm investing so much in having a better karma in my next life. Even so it's not conscious, it's automatically happening. So that's one example. And each of us, we can look at where am I investing and what am I creating for my next life in my investment. And of course, one investment we can make is towards transcendence, towards like making the self, the spiritual self, that pure being that we are, that pure consciousness that we are, to make that the master, to make not my health the master, not the money the master, not even my happiness the master, to make that the master is a self within. And then learning from the sages like Sukadev Goswami, learning from Srila Prabhupada, what does that mean to take care of the bird in a cage and not simply investing in a cage? Because there's a cage is there, I get to know the cage, I get maybe to counteract some of the cage to have a different cage in my next life. That's great. But what about the bird? What about the bird? How many hours of my day do I spend taking care of the bird? How many hours of my week I spend taking care of the birds? How much of my resources do I use? My resources are money, things, money, things. How much of my resources, time is resources too. How much of my resources do I use to take care of the bird? Otherwise, when I don't use my resources to take care of the birds, then I'm in illusion that it's my resources, it's mine. My house, my race, my family, my guitars, my car, my. And then as long as we are in that consciousness, then it's difficult. So even if we are in that my consciousness, then the next thing is that let me use my, what I mean illusion to be mine, like, like to take care of the birds. Take care of the bird, nourish the bird, support the bird, understand the bird's need, giving to the bird time, giving my presence to the bird, giving my full investment in the bird's constitutional position. And what's the bird's want? What is the bird's need? The bird's need is to make Lord Sri Krishna happy. The bird's need is to see the spiritual master smile. That's what the birds need, nothing else. The bird needs to fully surrender to the desire of the Lord, fully trust the Lord. The bird desire to feel cradled by the Lord. The bird desire to go back, to be fully 100% all the time, unlimitedly, unconditionally engaged in the service of the Lord. That's very simple desire of the bird. And so how much are we spending? We can all look like, okay, how much of the energy that's provided by the Lord, because none of it is mine. Kala is an energy of the Lord. Money is Lakshmi, an energy of the Lord. Karma comes from the Lord. Everything comes from the Lord. There is nothing separated from the Lord. So how much of the Lord's energy am I utilizing in the Lord's service? And that's another part of our responsibility, looking at our cage. What kind of cage I am in? It's really important to understand, because without that awareness, we are not going to be aware of the choices we make that keep us in a cage. Like a prisoner in a prison. I remember when I did that course in a prison, at the end of the course, the boys were really in a higher level of responsibility. At the beginning of the course, I could see like they were victim, like, oh, they put me in prison, I shouldn't be there. Why am I there? Those guards are all stupid and it's like that. That was their attitude. And after 6 days of self-realization, they were, oh, I understand what's happened. One of the boys said, I understand what's happened. Because when he was 3 years old, his father was imprisoned, and his father was a murderer. He had murdered someone. So when the boy was 3, his father was taken to prison to never to be seen again. And then the little boy, he will act like a 3-year-old. And every time he will act like a 3-year-old and annoy his mom will tell him, you're like your father, you're a murderer. You're just a murderer, you're like your father. So he heard that many, many times. And then by the age of 5, I'm not kidding, 5-year-old, he shoots someone in the foot around a swimming pool. He just got hold of a gun because probably in his environment, it wasn't very difficult to get hold of a gun. And he was probably playing with a gun, I imagine, or maybe he was angry and he used a gun against someone. I don't know the details, but that's quite early. And so since that, he was in and out of jail for children and teenagers. And then by the time I met him, he was 17. And we did a lecture about be, do, have. And by that time, I had seen that lecture many, many times. Be, do, have. From be, we act. So that's personal responsibility, the being into willing, into acting, and then that leads to reaction, or it leads to a result. So we did a lecture about that. And of all the adults I have seen over the years, hearing that lecture is the one person that understood it the most deeply. He raised his hand. At the end of the lecture, he raised his hand. He said, oh, I understand. I understand that I'm not like my father. I thought I was like my father, but I'm not. In fact, I'm like my grandfather. My grandfather is an honest carpenter, and he's a kind, gentle, honest carpenter. And that's who I am. I was such a aha moment for this kid. It was so deep. Because, yes, of course, as the quality of the soul is not a murderer. The soul cannot kill or cannot act in a way to get anybody killed. The soul is immortal and doesn't act it's beautiful. And the soul is kind and gentle. The soul is compassionate. The soul is powerful. The soul has all the quality, qualitatively, the soul is one with the Lord. So he realized that. And it was such a aha moment. Of course, I don't know what he did with that because he was in jail for probably a long time. He would have stayed there. I don't know what was his last crime to be there, but he felt really sad leaving those boys that were really reformed after 6 days. They came to a place of really understand. They were not victim anymore of the system. They were coming to a place like, I get it. Another one of those boys, he was breaking into people's house with a gun and putting the gun to the head and asking them, give me everything you have. Scary, huh? Very scary. This is 17-year-old boy coming, breaking into your house, putting a gun to your head. So that's what he was doing. And then at the end of the course, he approached me and he said, wow, I get it. He was really coming from that place that we are speaking about in this verse. He understood that he was the source of his situation. And it just happened that morning, he got his verdict. And that morning, he got his verdict that he will spend, I don't remember if it was 2 or 4 years, in a level 10 prison. So at 17-year-old, going to a level 10 prison, meaning he will be like with the most atrocious criminals, adult criminal. He was going to an adult jail of level 10. You know, he knew that meant torture, rape, and so many consequences. He knew that. And he approached me and he said, I get it. I get it. I can see how from a young age, my mom was he was raised by a single mom who was very poor. So she was living in crappy neighborhoods. And he got it that from a very young age, he got into bad association. Because himself, if he was in a different environment, he would have turned differently. But because he was in that environment, but he wasn't coming from a victiming place, oh, poor me. He was really seeing, yes, my mom was trying to protect me, but I went around with those kids again and again. And then I started to live like them. I identified as them and then do the things they were doing. And then what I'm going to do from those 2 years is going to be in a big cage, like a very heavy prison. He said, I'm going to get my GED. So similarly, we can get our GED. We understand why we are here. We understand what decision we made, one after another, that kept us conditioned. And then we can take advantage while we are in that heavy cage prison to get our GED, to get our passport out of the prison, to get the qualification to not cycle into the 8,400,000 species of life, to really not be so attached that our karma should be different. Okay, I'm sick, then I'm sick. Let me use that sickness to bring me to Krishna. Okay, I'm poor. Okay, I'm poor. Let me use that poverty to use that to increase my service to Krishna. Okay, things don't go the way I wanted. I had planned, and then the material energy drove wrench, and something else is happening. Let me use that to get out of the prison. Like this boy, it was a big wrench to be sentenced to years imprisoned with adults on level 10 prison with the greatest criminals that were around. It's a wrench, a big wrench. And he decided, I'm going to pray to God too. I really appreciated that I didn't speak about God directly in that seminar. And he came to that. He said, I'm going to pray to God every day. I'm going to read the Bible and I'm going to get my GED. And I remember that boy and I got, you got it. You got it. You got it. You got what many millions of human beings on the planet are not getting. You are getting it. I'm going to stop here. Hare Krishna. Bahurupa iva bhati mayaya bahurupaya ramamano guneshvasya mamaham iti manyate. The illusioned living entity appears in so many forms, offered by the external energy of the Lord, while enjoying in the modes of material nature, the uncaged living entity misconceives thinking in terms of I and mine. Hare Krishna, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Any comment, question? I see there is a chat. Puja said Mercury retrograde during this time. Thank you for saying that. I think I have some realization about that because so many things are breaking around our house, cars, so many things are breaking around. So thank you very much. I never look at coping mechanism in terms of success in life or approval from people. Makes sense. Thank you, James. Yes, some people coping mechanism are prettier than others, and they are very difficult to disentangle because of that. You know, you may have someone with a very, very nice person all the time, so nice and gentle and always ready to serve. And maybe it's due to some coping mechanism from childhood that unless I'm nice, I'm not going to be safe here. It's not safe unless I'm very nice. So yes, there some coping mechanisms are pretty, and they are difficult to disentangle. Birds need a clean cage. Yeah, they do. Thank you, Len. And so it is important to take care of the cage. I'm not saying it's not. Clean the cage, and make sure that the cage is in good shape. We take care of our body. Srila Prabhupada really was so good at supporting his disciple when they were healed. He would say, you know, your health is a priority. So we want to take care of our health. We want to be responsible that we are in a situation that's the most conducive to give service to Krishna. And a body that's healed or a body that's sick in some ways is more difficult to serve. So we want to take care of the catch. Yeah. I did an internship as a parole and probation office, and there were so many stories like this. I thought some could change with good association. Yeah, that's what I saw, and it was really sad for me, Puja, when I left the prison. I appreciate your comment. When I left the prison, I felt sad because I knew that what the kids will go through was not very helpful for their reformation, and probably doing the opposite. And so that's true for us too. What association are we putting ourselves into? Are we putting ourselves in association with people who are greedy and want money or want speak about sex, or what kind of association are we giving to ourselves and that are taking us away from reformation, and what association are there that are going to do like you're saying, could really create change for us, change in such a way that the good association is leading us to more and more want to invest Krishna's energy in Krishna's service. Thank you for your comment, Pooja. Len, I see that you have your hand up, and then Ramachandra, and then Dao Brahma. That's the order I see them, so I'm not sure what the order you. But Len, do you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so two things. First of all, I appreciate that you're looking at this idea of ourselves, encaging ourselves through our desires, and we're in this cage. And I had a realization from your reaction to my comment that the bird needs a clean cage. And it's interesting to me that my mind is kind of in a little bit of a box, and I'm thinking, well, let me just purify this cage a little bit. I can clean it up and, maybe do some more sattvic things, and then I'll be happy. But I'm still in the cage. I'm thinking, well, let me just clean the cage a little bit. Then that'll be good. No, how about getting out of the cage and flying free, right? So that's my realization. Like I'm just kind of still thinking kind of in a boxy kind of a way. Just clean the cage a little bit, then you'll be happy. No, get out. Get out of the cage, right? Um, the, so thank you for your comment. It really got me thinking a little bit. And then the other thing was that when I read the purport, what stood out for me was this idea of the dream of the Golden Mountain. That was so attractive to me. Oh my gosh. Yes, I dream of that Golden Mountain. What a wonderful thing, you know? And then then you wake up and you see, no, well, what you desire, this golden mountain, it's not here. You look around, there's no gold, there's no mountain. And, but yet I'm very attached to this idea of a golden mountain. So, but maybe I can actually climb that mountain or find that mountain in another body or in a more advanced body, or maybe, if I go to Krishna Loka, of course, I'm sure there's golden mountains all over there. It's like a whole mountain range of golden mountains. So, but that's not talking about desire anymore. He's making an analogy. Okay, your desires are like looking for a golden mountain. You'll never find them. You'll never get your desires. Uh, as long as they're material desires, you're never going to be satisfied. But to me, in my mind, the golden mountain represents something maybe a little different. It's like golden mountain would be enlightenment. Golden mountain would be finally breaking out of the cage, and finding your true self and what you're really all about, and getting out of the material cage and the trap. So that's what the golden mountain is to me. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
And I appreciate your comment, and I appreciate, like the opportunity to make a distinction, like, are we cleaning the cage because, it will be more comfortable, it will be happier, it will be nice, enlightenment and all this. It will be so nice to be in a clean cage. Or are we cleaning the cage because it's supportive of getting out of the cage? And that's a distinction we need to make, because maybe the action looks the same, but because the desire and the consciousness behind the action is different, then the result is going to be different. And you're realizing, like, no, I don't want to be staying in a cage, like to make the cage clean or comfortable, or for me to be happy, because it's still staying in a cage. Maybe instead of being in a level 10 prison, I move to a level 3 prison or level 1 prison, but I'm still in prison. Why will I want to stay in prison? Let me really be putting my consciousness and putting my desire in out of the cage. To really, and Sukadev Goswami, with the question of Maharaj Parikshit, we have a lot of help to put our consciousness and desire outside of the cage. We are helped to understand the cage. We are helped to understand how to use that entrapment or that vehicle. Sometimes on analogies, not the cage anymore, the vehicle, to use that vehicle to perfect ourselves towards the goal of getting out of the vehicle and getting out of the cage. So that we get so much help on both tracks, the track of awareness of the cage and how to use the cage, and awareness of using it for where we are going, and really fixing our mind, our desire in wanting the golden mountain of serving Krishna, being with Krishna, being liberated, being really acting as an instrument of Krishna from that pure consciousness of Satchitananda. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Len. Hare Krishna. I have Daru Brahma, you have something?
What about, I thought it was the other boy first, the one in Mexico? Didn't he have something? Is he gone?
No, but
Yeah, I'm here. I can share.
on the list you were first. So I see the list by when people raise their hand, and so you were first. So I ask you first.
Okay, who me? Okay. I'm only responding to the other day, the class you gave, and I made a very unclear statement for everybody. And it was unfortunately that too often. I just want to re-clear it up. There's nothing to do with today's class, but I do want to make this thing. You remember I told you how I appreciate you calling the Bhagavatam precious, right? Twice. And then I went, in this picture here, I went like this. Do you know who that is? Whoa. Anyway, I can't do it now. That, and I was just pointing, I appreciate it because that's precious. That little baby there, her name is Precious. So I was appreciating. That's why I mentioned it, but it wasn't clear to you or anyone else what I was doing, so it didn't make the point. So anyhow, yes, and just as the Bhagavatam is God and is precious, this dog is God and is precious. Anyhow, but not in the same way. But anyhow, I just want to clear that up. That's all. Okay, you got it.
Thank
Because
you.
I seem like an idiot.
Tao
You
Brahma.
didn't even say. Yeah.
You are
Okay.
too.
Oh well, hey. Actually, though, no, really.
Well,
Thank you, because I have to admit that you actually are one of the first persons who ever made me feel that way back. So you're very good at doing that. So thank you. That
yes,
makes me appreciate that I have some preciousness in me. So
yes,
thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You gave all your life to Krishna, serving Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna. You gave your life, your energy, your resources to serving Krishna.
Well, I did, but then I went from loving God to DOG. That's my problem. So anyhow, I'll get back someday.
You
Haribo.
never away. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Dao Brahma. Ramachandra.
Hare Krishna, Mother Malini. I have to share the feeling of feeling valued and worthy and loved by your association too, like Dara Brahma. And what comes to me, hearing you sharing specifically your experience in the prison, the program you conducted in the prison is, I don't have direct experience of that, but that sort of environment in my mind at least led me like to even question spiritual life. And for me it started more just like acknowledging how much we are imprisoned, like going to the temple. I started going to the temple just to take prasadam. I didn't even know that was prasadam at the time, and I didn't attend any classes or anything like that, but actually like seeing that I'm going to the same place with the same people, wearing the same clothes, eating the same food, and witnessing how much imprisoned I am really gave me a really good push to like, okay, there must be a way out of it. If I'm in prison, there must be a way out of it. And the second thing I wanted to share is how meeting ourselves where we at is such a powerful process. But without Krishna, it really leads. I feel like it leads me and perhaps others too to some other place rather than self-realization. And I had just like an experience of that just recently, like moving to a new place, renting a house, not meeting my expectations with the landlord. It was like almost a catastrophe, and I was ready to just like sitting in my room and just like, okay, starting earning money. I'm gonna just be doing money, not being concerned of my spiritual life really here specifically, but connecting to meeting myself where I'm at in relationship to God, to my spiritual master. What my spiritual master wants me to do where I'm at really gave me so much strength and power to go and deal with the landlord and like figure how I'm gonna like make a temple here and all these things. So just appreciating this more now in a more, I think, spiritually grounded way, how important it is to meet myself where I'm at in a spiritual context. Thank you. I muted and also had a question, but if you want to reflect, I can.
I appreciate like yeah, you're looking at the realization, like the first step towards spiritual life is to see I am in a cage, I'm miserable. Now, as long as we have the illusion of happiness, spiritual life is going to be difficult. And then we give often the example of Sanatan Goswami, that he said like, why am I suffering? Why am I in this cage? Understanding I'm in prison, and that's a prison, then that's the first step. And then when we understand, I mean, in prison, it's not natural to die. It's not natural to be sat miserable. It's not natural. Then we can inquire what's outside of the prison and what's the way to get out of the prison. And without that realization, it's going to be difficult. So I appreciate that. That's the process you went through when you started to go to the temple. And then, yeah, the meeting ourselves where we are at, it can be used as self-absorption instead of self-realization. Because if there is no sense of within the service of Krishna, lets me meet myself where I am at and realize I'm not God, I'm not even very advanced, I'm not very, surrendered, then those can lead us to humility, and then that's a platform to move. But that's long, if it's self-absorption, then it leads us to want to fight, control, and to the victim consciousness, and then collapse in ignorance and not really elevating ourselves. And so you could see in your example, as soon as you remember, okay, that's where I'm at, that's my situation here. I'm not very happy with that apartment. I'm not really happy with the landlord. I'm not really happy with what's happening. But let me take what I have. Let me take my dwelling, my apartment, my cage, my whatever you want to call it. And what do I do with that to serve my spiritual master? What do I do to serve Srila Prabhupada? What do I do to serve Krishna in that situation? And then it changes your consciousness. And in a sense, by changing your consciousness, you change your experience of your circumstance and situation.
Yeah, it even physically felt like a transformation. Like I was much more energetic, acknowledging what I need to do for my spiritual master rather than for my body. So I have like a nice house to live in or whatever. So, and I guess that's kind of my question, just like if you would be willing to touch briefly, and I mean, you did already through the lecture and in the past, but like again, sort of highlighting, what would you say briefly, like the differences between like a guilt trip and radical spiritual responsibility that uplifts us?
Yeah. And the difference is those boys who were in a prison and say, it's not fair, I shouldn't be there. I remember one of the boys, it was really, really funny. Unfortunately, they were putting him in so many psychiatric medication. But anyway, he had tick like that. He was speaking like that. So, well, yeah, when I see a car, I need to steal it, I cannot help it. He was 14-year-old. It was really funny. And, he was, yeah, I need to steal it. I cannot help it. Like if I see a car, I'm just breaking into it and go for a ride. And so he was in prison, and he probably was in and out of prison. And and he was like, yeah, it's not fair. I shouldn't be here. And, I'm sick. I have ADD. He was giving all his diagnostic. And it was really coming from a victimy place. And of course, because he was coming from that place, he was very disempowered in his life. And like no awareness of personal responsibility. So even that kid, let's say there is an armistice and the president say, okay, you're free, go, you're free. What do you think this kid will do?
Maybe stay in the prison.
He will go back, steal a car and go back to prison. So so as long as we are in a place of blame, victim, poor me, I'm here, look at what's happening to me, look at, oh, they are bad, or, oh, I'm so bad, I'm so much to blame, look at what an idiot. All that is connected with victim consciousness and not being willing to be responsible. But the moment we are responsible, then we are able to respond to our situation differently. And by making different able to make response, I was able in the past to make response. I'm able to make response in the present, and I'm able to respond in the future. And when I change that ability to respond to my life, then I create different results. I create different results. I create, instead of being the victim of my landlord, I create enlightenment, I create empowerment, I create inspiration. Yeah. Thank you, Mama Chandra.
I want to add quickly, that responsibility is not guilt, and oftentimes they're confused. Look, I've taken responsibility. I feel guilty. I feel shameful. Oftentimes, hanging out in guilt and shame is precisely for the purpose to avoid responsibility, to avoid looking, as you just said, Ma, to avoid looking, okay, how did I respond? What did I do? What did I not do? What I said, what I said. What choices am I going to make now to create a different outcome? And instead of standing responsible for what I created in the past, what I'm creating in the present and future, instead of standing responsible, I'll wallow in guilt and shame to avoid courageously looking responsibly. I mean, they can go together. That by looking responsibly at my life, I might see it where I was irresponsible and I feel guilty, and that guilt could move me to become a person of stronger character. I mean, they can go together in a healthy way. At the same time, often they're confused that I feel guilty and shameful. That means I've taken responsibility, but definitely not necessarily.
Thank you. Thank you for going deeper into the distinctions here between blame and shame and responsibility. And I appreciate, as we are radical responsibility, we may feel some sense of like irresponsibility and some sense of guilt, and that guilt lead us to make different choices or amend or do something to make it better in what we have done that was irresponsible. And then Pooja said, lol, she's laughing. I'm not sure about what, but and Pooja shared how I always think, what is this supposed to teach me when something happens? It changed the whole perspective, like coming from a place of accepting that everything is benevolent for my growth, everything is benevolence, is here to help me, not against me, but for me. Then by changing that perspective, then we change our experience and consciousness. Thank you. Damayanti, you had something you wanted to share?
Yes, thank you. I've gone through a really insane week with things not going right. Garuda and I are trying to buy a house, and it's 5 weeks delayed, and we've been through so many delays. And then this week we had to a closing scheduled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it all didn't work. And then we're hoping for Monday, but it's a holiday, and then so probably Tuesday. And this document from Florida went to Memphis, Tennessee, and it's supposed to be overnighted, and there's a storm, and it couldn't get there the next day. And everyone is, the seller and buyers are like over it, like we're over the delays. And I had such a mix of spiritual realization, and like I was reassuring Garuda's mother, it's okay if we don't get the house. Like, we have a whole life ahead of us. It's okay if we don't get the house. But I had put almost all of the effort to get the house, and I was attached. And then when the final like series of breakdowns happens Tuesday through Friday, people were telling me to reassure me each day about the next day. And also everyone was giving me the advice, like, the realtor and the lender and the title person and the broker, like the mortgage company. It was like all these people, it's, they're either telling me to please be patient, it's going to come in the mail or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that the FedEx, there's not going to be a problem with FedEx. And it happened. And then I finally said, I hear that the advice that everyone's giving me is to be patient, but that's not authentic for me. What's authentic for me? And I was thinking, I need to be more spiritual and detached, but really I'm angry. and I giving that a voice, and I was on this big thread, and all the managers were added to the email because it was getting to be escalated problems. I was like, actually, I'm not happy, I'm upset, and I gave it all voice. And it was on the edge of where I could feel the mode of passion mixed, and I can feel like I wanted to control it at this point. Like, no one managed this right, you know, not just the FedEx. There were things that were mismanaged, but it also felt so good to just be honest. So it was such a mix of, and at one night I said, okay, what is the message for me? I had a higher question, like Pooja was saying, like, what is the message for me in this? And I knew I need to chant and live my life purpose. And I had the realization, and I came back to Garuda after a japa walk, and I was like, you need to do your art tonight. I need to do my life purpose project, which I'm not going to say right now what that is, but I need to do that project. We need to chant. And then I was like, but then I was thinking, that's kind of measly. It's like one day where I was like super, how is Krishna going to respond to that? It's like, okay, I had one tiny moment of saying, okay, I should do the higher spiritual thing. So it's just been a complete mix of being human and being a spirit soul, and this week, and I just thought I'd share.
Yeah, thank you. I can relate. I have a similar week. You know, I'm not buying a house, but I have a similar week, and I can relate to like moment of control and moment of meeting yourself where you're at and not going to illusion of transcendence. No, I'm not feeling patience right now. I'm feeling angry, irritated, and patient, and that's where I am at. And at the same time, acknowledging where I am at, I also know that, okay, I want to direct my energy towards my life purpose, and I want to go back to my sadhana or giving to Krishna, but not because I'm feeling patient, but I'm meeting where I am at. And from that place, I can choose, like, okay, I'm angry, I'm impatient, I'm feeling irritated by all that, and I'm going to go and absorb myself in my life purpose. I'm going to go and chant. I'm going to go and read, but not from illusion of transcendence. That, oh, I'm feeling chanting and patient. Yeah, very much. Yeah. Because in fact, when we are going into illusion of transcendence, it's still a victimy place, and it doesn't lead us to responsibility. So no illusion, like, yeah, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling pissed with that, you know, breakdown in administrative headache. And I'm going to focus on my life purpose. So that was, and your vehicle, the material energy, your material conditioning, you could experience it fully, not ignoring it. And you could also experience, like, I know what's the goal of human life, and it's not to get a house, and I'm going to refocus. Thank you, Damayanti. I can relate. I had a similar week. Yes. There is some chat. Pooja is sharing it's Mercury retrograde right now until February 21st, so that we can expect that a lot of things are not going to flow because of that. Mercury is all about communication, so when it's retrograde, communication just don't go too well. Thank you. And that shows how we are not in charge. Again, that shows how the demigods are more power, that in fact we are puppets. And then even the gopis, they curse the demigod because of the eyelid. So we are not really in control of our eyelid. And they curse Lord Brahma because they say, like, they don't want to blink because they want to have their eyes always open to see Krishna. And then Parampara is also making, there is a chat from Parampara that I'm going to read. The misery of this material world serves to indirectly remind us of our incompatibility with dead matter. Intelligent living entities generally take note of these reminders and engage themselves in the culture of Vidya, or transcendental knowledge, Prabhupada purport to mantra 11 of Sri Ishopanishad. Thank you, Parampara, very appropriate purport from Srila Prabhupada, that we are incompatible, and trying to make it compatible is going to be crazy making. It's just trying to make this incompatible situation compatible is going to make it crazy making. One of our cages is our solar system where Mercury lives. Yes, exactly, our solar system, Mercury lives, yeah. And so many other, Pluto and Rahu and so many. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure being with you today.
Oh, I was gonna, can I share something?
Yes, Sarah.
I appreciate the last two sharing of Rama and Dominique, and like the giving your example and the distinction, because Rama asked like, the distinction of meeting ourselves where we're at. And yeah, I liked how Dominique, you shared that, yeah, you were angry and that wasn't going into victim. It was just, yeah, like sharing, that's really powerful. And I really appreciate from the class, I guess my takeaway is to a couple of things was like knowing our cage, you said. I really liked how you said that. It's getting me to think in some ways, and using our cage for self-realization or to be with or serve Krishna. And I really enjoyed your fun and playful way of speaking about being the bird. I've heard that before, but for some reason this landed differently, hearing you speak about it in that way, in a very playful, energetic way. And it touched me in a different way. And I have some feelings about, I can even sense, like in my chanting, I sense I'm doing that. I still have some other questions, like how to feed the bird in that way, but I'm beginning to be with that question. And then I also appreciating your sharing about the prisons, especially because of what I shared with you last week about what happened in the neighborhood for me and just what that brought up for me. And so that was really powerful to hear you speak about that example. It really related exactly kind of what happened last week. So thank you for that. That's all.
Laura, for sharing your prayers and what you're going to take with you of the comments and the class, and how relatable you feel, and you feel, it seems that you're increasing eagerness to take care of that bird. And the vehicle, like Brielle is reminding us, and like the body, we learn how the cage works so we can drive it. So there is an analogy of the vehicle, like if I don't know what vehicle I'm driving, I'm going to be in danger on the road. I'm going to be a very, very dangerous. Like, and I have had the opportunity to really go in very powerful sports car when, as soon as one touched the pedal of acceleration, the car is just gone. And you know, if I'm driving a sport car the same way I'm driving a little compact V4 4-cylinder car, then I'm going to kill myself, because I don't understand the vehicle I'm driving. So understanding our vehicle allow us to know how to drive it sanely towards the goal, and the goal of going back to my constitutional position and taking the self as master, that master of the self is within that vehicle, that car, and let me understand how to drive that car, that the master get to more and more manifest himself through that vehicle, and driving safely in a way that will lead me to my expected goal. Yeah, so that's a very important aspect of understanding the vehicle. For what? Not for the sake of understanding it. What's the point? That same neighbor spend every hour of his free time working on his car, but I don't think he's doing much. So if we observe ourselves and clean the car every weekend There is a few like that in the neighborhood where they are always working on their car, but they don't seem to be doing much with their car or going anywhere. So if it's that self-absorption, I'm working on the car, but to go where? What's the point? The point is just the car. That's ridiculous. But some people do that. So no, I'm making sure that I'm taking care of the car and I understand the car. For what purpose? For the purpose of understanding how to drive that car to the destination.
Thank you. Yeah, like radical responsibility with our own car. And that's really funny that always working on his outside car. So that will give me some light when I see that. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. I wish you a very beautiful day in service to Krishna, in loving service to Krishna. Remember that the master of his body is the self. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Hi, Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam.